Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a live reaction and player ratings live stream following Chelsea 2, Tottenham 0. And what a nicer way to finish a beautiful Wednesday evening, eh? Than beating Tottenham. I mean, it should have been way more than 2, but at least it was 2. You know, we won by more than 1 goal, so, I'm not complaining. I mean, you could argue both teams were kind of equally as close to the strongest 11. Maybe, I don't know. We could have a debate about that in a minute. The craziest thing about it was arguably Thomas Tuchel doing a bit of a switcheroo between a back 4 and a back 3 and a back 5 and all sorts of things, all at the same time. Not like in the same game, but like literally at the same time. But we'll discuss that. Maybe the boys saw it slightly differently than me. Oh, and RJ has joined us as well. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I'm joined by 3 very, very special guests. Of course, the returning clutch, as always, bro. How you doing? It's probably similarly to myself because when we beat Spurs, it's a good day.
Yeah, anytime we beat them, it's really fun. It's even more fun that Kante was there looking absolutely befuddled in the first half, like he didn't know what was going on, like he expected a back 3 and we didn't come with a back 3. I don't think Tottenham was very good in the first half. I think they were actually really, really poor. And Dembele, I think in the second half changed things and they got a little bit closer to us and we kind of stepped off the gas pedal. But overall, I think it was a pretty good performance for a midweek fixture with Thiago Silva out and Kante out. So, I think we did very good for the circumstances.
Oh, for sure. I think we did very well considering the circumstances. Obviously, the circumstances getting only ever worse because of what you just mentioned. Fortunately, both Thiago Silva and N'Golo Kante have contracted the Rona, as we like to call it. And to top things off, Azpilicueta pulled his bloody hamstring during the game. So, can we please sign a right back for God's sake? Like, does it have to be Pulisic right back all the bloody time? Like, not only did he play right wing back all the time, so they actually had to play right back at the very end. Like that was a problem. Pice, of course, say welcome as the clutch. Cheers for coming. How do you feel? It's always good beating Spurs, is it not?
Yeah, very good. I think the only frustration is we probably didn't score more. There was multiple chances we could have had. Ziyech especially had a fantastic game, but definitely had some chances to score tonight. Yeah, I mean, what else can you ask for, though? I thought we played really well. I thought we passed the ball a lot quicker as well, and I liked the switch between the formations. We'll talk about that more, but I think we just looked a lot more attacking tonight. I thought, we set the tone from minute 1, and that's what Lukaku was saying in his press conference, was that we have to set the tone as a team from minute 1. And I said to you, like, when we play against Spurs, I just always feel... Yeah, he said that in his interview.
I think, okay, because he said press conference. I was like, what press conference?
Well, yeah, same thing.
No, all good, don't worry.
No, but like, yeah, I think when we play against Spurs, I'm always confident. I always feel like we'll outwork them, outfight them, and just outplay them. I always have that confidence with Spurs, and I think that showed tonight. So, yeah, the only frustration, Laurenz, is not scoring more than 2. But I guess we can't be greedy. I mean, 2 goals away from home, we're likely to score, in my opinion. Last time we played there, we absolutely battered them. It could have been like 8-0. So, yeah, we'll see what happens next Wednesday.
We will see what happens next Wednesday. And as you can also see on screen, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by an actually returning guest. But who knows how many of you were there that day. We are joined again by Mr. RJ, all the way from down under, all the way from Australia. First of all, RJ, thank you very much for joining us. I presume you're also doing well because, like I've just said twice already, it's always good beating Spurs. But how do you feel?
First of all, thanks for having me back on, Laurenz. It's been a while. It's nice and early down here in Sydney, Australia. It's good to chat with Pies and nice to meet you as well. Clutch, always brilliant to beat Spurs. I actually wrote a reflection piece last night talking about my favourite top 5 moments over the past decade. We just have so many things to celebrate. And the thing that resonated me the most was the squad really dug deep. 4 circumstances, COVID, player injuries, but we really showed the value of having a good squad and how timely is it to have players like Saul, Ziyech, Malang Sarr, another player I thought had a pretty solid performance. It's so important that we can rely on these players to really step up and fill the void left by those other superstars.
No, exactly. And I mean, we will talk about that in just a second in terms of how we actually lined up and how things had to be and ended up being so very different to, certainly us all expected it, I presume. And, even when the lineup was initially released, there was all sorts of debates going on. Is it a back four? Is it a back three? Is Alonso playing right wing back? Is Mason Mount playing right wing back? Is Ziyech playing right wing back? All sorts of madness going on Twitter. And, in the end, all of us were kind of wrong because no one predicted like a mix of two formations all at once. And then at least that's how I saw it. Yeah, exactly. Clutch, I go to you. I mean, we were talking on Twitter. You said it was a 4-2-2-2. And I was like, now it's a back three. And, in the end, it was both.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of debate I seen. And I think it was Newsom who put me onto the 4-2-2. So I think when we were in attack, we were playing the 4-2-2-2. And in defense, he kind of dropped in to make that makeshift right wing back. So, I mean, I think Ziyech made a lot of hustle moments. I think he had to be on his top game because one of the criticisms that I always had about Ziyech is it seems like he couldn't be bothered to run when he had to. And in his last 7 appearances for Chelsea, that has been out the window. The guy is doing absolute work right now. And it showed. I mean, today I thought he was brilliant, especially filling in on that side. Am I a big fan of a left footer over there? Not really, but did he make some good passes all the same? I think he did. And I would probably say, it just, when you go to that back four and you have, the 4 attackers that we had, Mason Mount, Ziyech, Lukaku, Havertz, I think we just look better because the defense has more people to go up against. When our wingbacks stay wide and it's only our front 3 up there, I think it's a little bit easier to defend because you're more defending the box. But now they had to spread out a little bit, causing a lot more problems. And I think Lukaku was kind of causing problems, dragging people away. But I think Kai Havertz's movement was actually brilliant within that first 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, for sure. Kai Havertz. I mean, we'll get to it in a second. I'm just trying to put it up on screen so we can actually talk about how we lined up or whatever. Pies, how did you see it? Well, what lineup was it in your head? Or, would you probably go along that we just switched between two depending on whether we were on the ball or off the ball?
Yeah, no, at first I thought, it was just a traditional 3 at the back. But no, I do agree it was the 4-2-2 in when we was on the ball, when we was attacking. You could clearly see about that by the shape. I mean, if anyone's interested, I've retweeted something from Premier League Panel, which he's quite good at analysing things and he goes in depth. So yeah, it was really interesting to have a look back after the games. I know these analysis accounts will confirm it or deny it. They go through the game, take pictures and stuff for the tweets. So yeah, Tuchel was very, very smart. As I said, I think in attack we just looked a lot more fluid. I thought we had more space, more options. I just thought we looked a lot better, but definitely a 3-5-2 in defence. You could see Ziyech dropping back into wing back when he was defending. And actually, I thought he had a very, very good game defensively as well tonight. Even when he got caught out a couple of times, he won the ball back. And his work rate was fantastic, honestly. But yeah, in attack, you really saw that sort of pivot of Jorginho and Saul, and then Mount on sort of the left attacking mid, Ziyech on the right, and then it was a 2 up top, alternating between Havertz, Werner, and obviously Lukaku. Werner obviously came on second half. But yeah, I was worried actually because 4 at the back with, Aspi, Alonso, Sarr, who's never played there. I'm like, well, we're going to get absolutely trounced. But actually, they were very, very impressive tonight. Not sure how much it was due to Spurs being bad, but they did improve a little bit in the second half. But still, I mean, with the personnel we had, I thought Tuchel, had a tactical masterclass for me. I mean, we didn't look under threat that much at all during the game. We was really, really good tonight.
No, absolutely not. I mean, Spurs didn't have a single shot in the first half, and I think in the end they had 2 on target. Literally 2 moments for Kepa to do anything. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I was tweeting before the game when no one was sure, and I was like, I'm not sure whether it's a back 4 or a back 3, but if it is a back 4, I feel like we're getting slapped up. And I hold my hands up. I'm happily wrong, obviously, when I say like we're getting slapped up, because we definitely didn't get slapped up. So, that was good to see. RJ, how did you see it in terms of formation? Was it a surprise to you? Because my reaction to it, to some extent, I'm like happy that we did finally try something different. But on the other hand, I'm like, so if we can just do it. And in this scenario, it was kind of the second string side, the likes of Malone Sarr and, just a few players that just don't get that many minutes. To be honest, even Hakim Ziyech, right? If we can just do it, why haven't we switched it before?
Yeah, I think this was actually more, not because this is all of a sudden a philosophical change, but I think it's partially attributed to a forced set of circumstances. Like we've said, Silva's out, We've already got Chilwell. We've already got Reece James. I think a lot of this has been a bit forced on us. And I think given the fact that we've got more of our attacking-based players that are somewhat fit or at least available, it's at least given Tuchel an opportunity to tinker with this and allow to us to use the players like Saul, who we've gotten that depth. Because it's a lesser of two evils. Do you put someone like Saul in a left wing-back spot, which we know he has played there before, but albeit not very well for us, or like he showed in recent times, when he's paired alongside J5, he can work quite well together. So I thought this is one of those things where he's the Tuchel's got his tools lined up, and he thought, what's the best way I can work with what's available? And as a result, I believe it's been able to benefit the likes of Ziyech, Mount, Havertz. And I actually thought that Alonso also had quite a strong game. Obviously, came up with the assist for the first goal. But like Pi said, I was a bit concerned playing that back four with Aspi, Sarr, Alonso untested really in that setup. But overall, we really controlled things from the outset. Spurs gave Jorginho so much time on the ball to really orchestrate things. And I thought that was really surprising, given if we know that if you can keep him under a lot of pressure and you can frazzle him a little bit, it really disrupts the rhythm within our team. But the fact, particularly in that first half, he was able just to really have so much time and space on the ball to find passes left, right, and center. It really made us look superior and so dominant against a team that had gone as 9 games undefeated domestically. So I was just taken aback just how much in control we were. 10 shots in the first half to none. Spurs were struggling to get out of their own red zone, and Son and Kane were basically passengers for the most part. In the second half, I agree that was a little bit of a response at the start, but Chelsea, although they weathered a bit of a mini resurgence, created more of the clear-cut chances. And again, the constructive criticism is for all of our dominance, we failed to really apply the killer blow.
That's the only disappointing thing, especially because it is obviously a 2-legged affair. And we do have to go, obviously, to Tottenham next week. Going into it with a 3-0 lead is certainly a good bit better than going into it with a 2-0 lead. Obviously, we couldn't take it lightly either which way, but obviously it still puts us in a better position. Dan, I appreciate the donation a lot. Appreciate actually both donations a lot. And like he said, get the last up, ladies and gentlemen. We already have pretty much 250 people watching, which I massively appreciate. So if you're new here, be sure to subscribe. And like Dan the Man said, smash that like button, because it doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time. You might as well do it. Let me just get the formation up on screen. I mean, if you're telling me I'm wrong, someone in the comments said it was a 4-1-4-1, which I'm not quite sure where in your 4-1-4-1 Kai Havertz played, because it was certainly not a left mid. So I'm not quite sure how you came to that conclusion.
There was definitely a pivot. There wasn't a lone DM as such, as in a 4-1-4-1. There was definitely a forward treble too. And I mean, Tuchel used this at PSG as well. So I think it's something that we've seen the tactical change now. Hopefully we can see it a little bit more often, even if it's just, training with the team to alternate, 30 minutes, So, in previous games where we've just stuck with a 3-5-2, some games we need a goal, right? Maybe in some games now, if we work on it in training, we can change, if we need a goal in the last 30 minutes or something, because we did look really attacking today, I think. And Tuchel's used it before, so it's nice to see a change.
It is nice to see a change, although I'm not personally 100% sure how much of that was us being so much better at attacking and just Spurs being kind of awful. Because I can't remember the last time we played a game in which we had this much space in the opposition's half until we got to the box, and that's kind of where we started to struggle. Obviously, we had chances and we could have scored a few more, but we also can't now pretend that we were so much more dangerous than we were in the games where we played the 3-4-3 like we most of the time do. But just to quickly elaborate how I saw it, at least, again, if you people in the chat and obviously you boys in the stream disagree, but obviously this is how, in my opinion, we played on the ball, and then off the ball it shifted to kind of probably what they were talking about, because off the ball I do think it shifted to a little bit of a, well, not a little bit. It shifted into a 3, even though Saul was obviously closer to Mount than Mason was, but it shifted into kind of a bit of a 3, and then obviously you had the 2 up top. Alonso kind of pushed up, and it all just shifted over. Rudiger then the central centre-back, Aspi here, and Ziyech, like the boys have said, essentially playing 2 positions in one today, which, could he have scored maybe 1 or 2 goals? Yes. But should he have 1,000,000% had 1 assist? Yes. And that pass to Timo Werner did deserve an assist. But the biggest praise for me today to him goes because he essentially played two positions all in one. And that's not easy, whether you've played a lot or not. Yeah, you on the one hand, you can say, well, he should be fully rested, and he definitely is. But at the same time, you have to say, well, especially if you're not 1,000,000% match fit because you just don't get a lot of game time, to do the running for essentially two positions is very impressive. So I was very, very happy with him. I will for this stream, I will paint it out as a 4-2-4-2-2. Let me call it a 4-2-2. It's a bit nicer to say than 4-2-2-2. Do you know what I mean? But that's how we will paint it up. But obviously, remember, off the ball in defense, we kind of shifted it more to a 3-5-2 than anything else. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, Edouard Mendy has left for the African Cup of Nations. Again, like I said the other day already. All the best to him, of course, and to Senegal. But that meant Kepa Arrizbalaga had to be in goal. Well, to be honest, he probably would have been in goal today regardless of whether Mendy was away or not, because Kepa has, as far as I'm aware, played all of the Carabao Cup games so far. And so he did again today. And that's, where we should probably start the player ratings. And honestly, I mean, he didn't have much to do, but he made 2 saves. And both of those saves, especially the second one, were actually really good saves. So, from my perspective, the distribution for the most part was pretty good. Was pretty happy with it, as we 99% of the time are with Kepa. So yeah, not much to complain about. So it's difficult. Obviously, next, you think 8 is a tad high because it was only 2 shots, or would you go along with it?
I think so, and I'm generally pretty optimistic, as you know, Laurenz. I just think an 8 to me suggests a really impactful display. But as you said, he did what he was asked to do. It's really hard to criticize someone for not being actively involved when they're not asked to do so. But that save at the end was potentially huge in the big scheme of things, because had Tottenham pulled one back, all of a sudden the narrative is Tottenham are now, despite being battered and bruised, are only 1 goal away. So, look, 8's probably a touch optimistic. I would have gone 7.5, but, we're feeling in a good mood. So unless the boys are, quite, unhappy with an 8, I'd be happy to leave it as is.
Fair dues. Pice has just put in the private chat here a quote by Thomas Tuchel post-game saying, we played a 4-4-2 actually, whether you call it 4-4-2 or 4-2-2, doesn't really matter essentially. Actually, when we had the ball, because there was no centre-backs left to play a 5. Well, there was probably the centre-backs left, but then we didn't have the wing-backs left, especially if you really wanted to rest both Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi today, which it seemed like we wanted to, because that's what we did. But Arjun then in response, kind of, we had a good joke with Dan McCarthy once about this, backing himself. Indeed confirming what I said about being forced rather than, switching to a back 4 being a philosophical change, which, I would probably say rings true, but I guess we'll find out in due course to the rest of the season if we ever use it again and in what situations we ever use it again. But, RJ might have gone a tad lower, but would be happy to go along with the 8. Pice, how do you see it? Is 8 a bit much? Or, again, it's just difficult for goalkeepers. If you don't face many shots, you can only really do what you asked. And if you do that perfectly, how high do you go with the rating?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, the one good save he made, I think, it was late towards the end of the game, and it was a cutback. Yeah. He made a fantastic save across the box, and I thought they were going to score on the rebound. We got rid of it.
Yeah, got rid of it.
Yeah, so, I mean, an 8's probably fair enough, considering, it's his first game back in the team for a while. I thought he was really good on the ball. I think the only moment I remember was he dropped the ball on one occasion, and then it was a handball from Lucas, I think. That was the only thing I noticed him doing. He did drop the ball, and Mendy would have called it. But
because I thought Kepa was pointing at his arm, but I thought, and that's what I said as well, that Lucas jumped into Kepa's arm as he was catching it, and then that's why he dropped it.
That's what I seen. I seen that. I seen him knock the ball out of his hand.
No. I watched the replay.
Because he definitely didn't touch it with his arm, because Lucas didn't have his arms up.
He hit his arm. He hit Kepa's arm with his head.
Yeah. Lucas hit Kepa's arm. Yeah, exactly.
I
mean, hey, some people in the chat saying it was a handball, so who the hell even knows? Maybe Price is right.
No, so Kepa literally dropped the ball, right? And then as he dropped it, Lucas handballed it. There was no foul from Lucas. Kepa just dropped the ball.
From the replay, it looked like he knocked it out of his hands.
Yeah, I thought that.
I disagree. I don't think it was a foul, but fair enough.
Well, you can debate whether it was a foul or not. I'm not. But,
for me, I don't.
With his arm.
Yeah, for me, I don't think he knocked it out of his hand. I think Kepa just dropped it when I watched it.
Go on.
Yeah.
But what rating would you go with then?
Yeah, I said I'll go with an 8. I think. I agree.
Sorry. All good, all good. I mean, you know what I think it could be like? I feel like maybe did Lucas hit Kepa's arm and then the ball fell onto Lucas's arm? Could that be the scenario? Hence why both happened. Because otherwise it's illogical that we have all seen different things and we're all so confident that we've seen it. That makes no sense, other than if both things happen. But anyway, Clutch, we've gone with 3-8 today, even if we're all like, maybe we could go a little lower. But hey, let's be positive. But how do you see it?
I think if we're being in the spirit of being positive, I think 8's perfectly fine for Kepa. The one thing where Harry Kane took that free kick and Kepa did not move to the open side of the goal, that kind of confused me. But luckily enough, Kane went for the far side, so I do, and I think that was incredibly brave of Kepa to actually not move for that. So I'd go with 8.
Maybe he just knows that Kane doesn't back himself to put it over the wall and in. So, maybe that's just keeper's research. I don't know. I mean, Johnny in the chat saying 8 for doing pretty much nothing. Yeah, you can kind of say that aside from 2 saves. But again, can you blame him for not doing more if Spurs don't shoot at his goal more? Do you know what I mean? This would be a 7 if it was Mendy, no doubt. I don't think so, to be honest.
Is it interesting, Lawrence, that I wonder if this rating will be moderated, because if you go through the rest of the team rating, which we're going to do, how does that relative to everybody else go? You know what I mean? Because is everybody going to start getting 9, 10s and 11s because he's done nothing? So it's quite interesting. So we'll see. It
is a good chance to save ourselves and not go like too crazy with the ratings, because we were very good, but part of that was also Spurs being very bad. So should we drop it to 7.5? Would you all be okay with that without, too much being too insulting against Kepa?
I mean, even a 7 is not too bad, to be honest. But
I'll still back a 7.5. I don't want to go a full point under what I went with.
For that cutback save, I think he deserves at least a 0.5 on top of a 7. Because that save was good.
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's give him a 7.5, but I do see what the chat and what RJ brought up as well. It's interesting. Usually we have a back 3 to talk about. Now all of a sudden it's a back 4. So which order do we do it in? Let's do the 2 centre backs first before we get to the 2 actual fullbacks and then move up the pitch. Clutch, I'll stick with you actually. Let's start with. Well, I was going to say the leader of the defense, but obviously Aspi's actually the captain, and Alonso has been here longer than Rudiger. But Rudiger is the only one that probably starts if everyone's fit. So you could argue the leader of defense, but arguably the one that stood out the least, but not because he was the worst, not by any means, but just because maybe he was the most calm. Maybe we just all the most confident in him, so we are less impressed when he does something good. I don't know, but certainly a good performance.
I think he did very well. I wouldn't go as high as I would go with the next center back next to him. I'd probably go with a 7. I do think he had a couple moments where he tried to run out with the ball, which you probably shouldn't do in the formation that we tried to run, and he lost the ball high up, and they kind of started chasing the ball around, which is something he can do if you have Thiago Silva and another center back with you back there. But I'd probably go with a 7 or a 7.5.
Fair dues. Also another message here by Pice in the private chat saying about transfers, and also coming from Fabrizio Romano himself, although some Chelsea fans for some reason were a bit unhappy with how he worded Lukaku's interview. Although maybe people have kind of changed their opinion since they actually watched the interview and realised no, Lukaku was being a mug. Anyway, what Fabrizio said is that Newcastle bid 22.5 million, presumably pounds, for Digne, obviously Luka Digne from Everton, but Digne has rejected because he wants to go somewhere else in the Premier League. Well, I wonder where that is, but apparently first Chelsea need to understand what the word no means, because we've asked Leon twice now to get Emerson, and they've both times told us no, and we're still apparently trying to get Emerson back, which is well, obviously they loaned him from us. If we take him back, they need to sign someone. Obviously, they're not going to be particularly pleased with that, especially when they have, as far as I'm aware, a buy option in the summer, because even if we still allow them to have the buy option, they still need someone for the next 6 months. So just deal with the no and sign Digne. Is how I see it. But I would probably, let me just actually get rid of that comment. I do apologize. I would actually probably go along with your 7, to be honest. I think I would rather go 7 than 7.5. Maybe I don't know. Maybe 7.5 is fair. I'm gonna do what Clutch did and sit on the fence between both and see what Pice and RJ said. So Pice, what do you reckon? More for 7, more 7.5 for Rudiger, or would you go with something different completely?
7.5 for me. I think he was very good. I think it was another masterclass, especially in the middle. I think he played a lot in the middle. And when we was defending the back three, he was in the middle. And obviously when the back four, he was on the left side, I believe. Was he on the left or the right?
Right side.
Right side. Yeah. I just thought it just looks effortless at times, kind of like Thiago Silva, where you just go into a game and you know he's not going to really do anything wrong. I get Clutch's point of pushing high up with the ball, but we know he does that anyway. So, I mean, it's pretty normal that he might lose it on a couple of occasions. I mean, there was one time as well where I felt really bad actually because I thought Ndombele got it in the head, but he booted the ball onto someone's or on his back. I mean,
yeah, I'm always back.
Yeah, he's moving mad, but yeah, we need to give him the contract, bro. 100%. Especially, I've always said it. If we're planning with Tuchel for the next, I don't know, 3 years or few, I don't know how long he's gonna last, right? But no one can actually physically tell me that. But he has to get the contract. He has to. There's got to be some sort of meet in the middle. If you can't, satisfy each other, please, he's just so important. He's a dressing room leader, and the consistency is ridiculous. He never used to be consistent, but he's been consistent for a year and a half now. So this guy, we cannot let him go, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. At least a year, shall we say? Because a year and a half ago was when Lampard dropped him. But I completely agree. And hey, people were telling us we can't play a back four with Rudiger and we can't play a back four with Jorginho. Well, look at that. See the things that we can actually do. But hey, the Twitter yarders will tell you we can't. But RJ, 7.5 fair for you, or would you prefer to go with a 7?
No, I think you couldn't give him a score lower than Kepa because he had more active involvement. I think being deployed more in that central position. I know he was a back four, but there were a lot of times when he was the central of the three when they were moving forward. And I just thought, as a leader and experienced presence amongst the makeshift side at times, I felt he was an ever present. I felt he really did well to organise both Sarr and Aspi and really kept things nice and tidy, kept Kane and Son very, very quiet. And he also continues to do his unique things like really taunt the Spurs players, but some of his passes were exceptional. He almost scored as well from that set piece, which was deflected for a corner, you might recall, in the first half.
Yeah.
It was a good turn and shoot. It's only things that he's very unique and a player such as himself can do, especially now he's got lots of confidence. And I just felt overall, he's a player that's one of the very first on the team sheet. So, yeah, anything less than a 7.5, I think is a tad disrespectful to the big German.
Fair dues. I mean, obviously, they are all on the pitch, but I have said this multiple times. For me, goalkeeper and outfield player ratings are kind of like two separate things. I almost disregard what I do with the goalkeeper because, like I said, the players on the pitch, the 10 outfield players, they're actually involved in a game of football. Kepa, or the goalkeeper, is only as involved as the opponent forces him to be. Or in some occasions, his own defense forces him to be. But while a centre-back is kind of can have his own impetus to actually be involved, while the goalkeeper can't do that. Hence why I almost keep them separate. But I do.
It's a good point.
Yeah, there you go. But I do see what you're saying, definitely. And hey, in the end, we agree on the 7.5. Anyway, let's get to his partner in crime of the night. Who would have thought? Malang bloody Sarr. What performance, honestly. Yeah, of course, when I say what a performance, part of that is the fact that it is Malang Sarr. And I mean, he's had some decent games, but he's also had one or two kind of stinkers. So, we're not really none of us are probably the biggest fans of Malang Sarr. Let's not kid ourselves. So maybe a little bit is I'm impressed more because I'm not expecting so much, but still, I was genuinely very, very pleased with him. Pice, I go with you first this time. What do you make of Malang Sarr? Obviously, I know you're never the biggest fan of Sarr, but even you text me at halftime was well, he's been brilliant, really.
Yeah, he has. I mean, credit where credit's due. I think he probably gets a tad higher rating than Rudiger just because, as you said, we don't expect as much from him. He's not as good as player as Rudiger. So I think actually he was very, very commanding, very, very assured tonight. I thought he went into duels very well. I thought he just looked kind of like another leader, honestly. He was really up for it. He really got stuck in, but he was also very assured on the ball, and I think he helped with our ball progressing quite a lot. The only one moment I can remember is when he gave that foul away on the edge of the box, which Kepa saved the free kick.
You can certainly give it as a foul, but I don't think it's a stone wall free kick either, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll still judge him on that because it did get given as a foul. But I think you just got to be careful sometimes of diving in so close to the box. But he is a bit like that. He's a bit kind of reckless like Rudiger sometimes. But certainly on the ball, I just noticed very, very assured, good pass selection. And I think he helped with our overall passing game tonight. Because as I mentioned, I thought we passed the ball quicker. There was a lot more combinations. We just looked like we knew what we was doing. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you watch Chelsea and you think, side to side, we're going to go back next. Like, I thought it was almost like some of the passing sequences were like pre-planned or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, sometimes it was like 1, 2, 3, and we was like out of a press, and it was like, wow, that's really good. But yeah, I think I'm going to give him an 8. I think credit where credit's due, honestly.
Fair dues, yeah. I mean, I'd probably sit somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8 myself as well. Obviously, I've seen some people in the chat have said, talking about the free kick that you brought up as well, Pies, and someone said, he gave the ball away maybe on one occasion. I personally can't remember, but that doesn't mean didn't happen. But yeah, I completely agree actually, and that why I was so impressed with him. Not only defensively, he had a few good moments where, like, he won 50-50s that weren't even 50-50s, where I thought he was the less likely to come out of that the winner. And I swear on every occasion he came out the winner. So fair play to him, honestly. And like Pice just mentioned, I was in particular happy with his playing out from the back. It was so quick. It was honestly almost good to see a capable left-footed centre-back play. Like, we obviously don't have a lot. Like, we don't see that a lot because Sarr is our only left-footed centre-back. But it was really good and useful, honestly. Like, I was pretty pleased with it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think an 8 is outrageous. But I think if people say give him the same as Rudiger, that is fair enough as well. RJ, I'll go with you next. How do you see it? 8, or do you think it should maybe be along the lines of Rudiger, or maybe even a tad lower than it?
No, not a tad lower. I completely agree with you, Python, because I had, in preparation for the show, I was going for each of the players, coming up with a few points, and I was looking at Son. I'm thinking, this guy's been very rocks and diamonds for us. It was really strong against Brentford, and then he came in the next game, and he had a little bit of a dip, and we thought, we're getting a little bit of a Dr. Jekyll and Hyde sort of performance here. But in this particular clash, very early on, he was really strong. He got very tight. He gave Kane no room at all. He was crunching in tackles. He was distributing the ball very cleanly. He was using his natural athleticism to his advantage. And he wasn't making the same characteristic mistakes that we've become, unfortunately, accustomed to when he has made an appearance. That foul was a bit unfortunate, and it could have been quite costly. But I thought for the most part, he kept his challenges nice and clean, and he was someone that was very reliable. And I think because we compare, perhaps unfairly, the same consistency and standard of Rudiger, that our expectation of Sarr is down here. So when he performs above that, you're naturally inclined to want to give him a better rating. But I thought, honestly, he was probably the most involved of our defenders and was probably the most clean. So because of that, I would support Pice's rating of an 8 as well.
Fair dues. I did actually want to say a couple of things about Rudiger potential developments about his contract situation that Pice kind of touched on, and then I completely forgot about again. I do apologize. We'll get back to that when we finish talking about Malang Sarr before we move on to the fullbacks. But Clutch, would you go along with the 8 for Sarr? I mean, you hinted on it earlier, obviously, when you said you would like to actually give his, Rudiger's partner in defense a higher rating today.
Yeah, I'd probably go just a tiny bit higher than Rudiger. I think he looked a lot more comfortable in this back four. I think he doesn't look as comfortable in a back three, but today it seemed like this is where he likes to be. He was making the interceptions. He was stopping the ball from Kane, and whenever Moore would come inside, I think he was pretty good. His passing was really good. Not much more to say than the boys had to say. I think he deserves the 8. It was probably his best performance inside the Chelsea shirt this year.
I would agree. And hey, give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's just good mates with Kepa. I was like, poor Kepa, bored and gold. I mean, give a free kick away, give Kepa something to do. So, you can't be too harsh for giving a free kick away if Kepa saves it as comfortably as he did. But just quickly finishing this talk about Rudiger. Obviously, I think it was yesterday that Nizar Kinsella from Goal.com released an article in which Rudiger was also part of it, saying that with both Azpilicueta and Rudiger, the club has actually held positive contract talks again, and they still feel confident, or they still feel positive, or they feel positive again, whichever way you want to look at it, of keeping the both of them, but in particular Antonio Rudiger. And reports have obviously come out multiple times in the last few days. We've mentioned it once in the past, but it wasn't as credible quite yet. But the reports just keep piling up on itself, really, in terms of that Real Madrid have pulled out of trying to get Antonio Rudiger. Interesting one. Maybe also the fact that Thomas Tuchel involved him in the whole Lukaku decision. Maybe that made Rudiger feel like really, I don't know, important and wanted and stuff. I don't know. Anything can help, really. So if Chelsea can find a way to give him that contract, hey, if you want to be, if the problem is, we don't mind giving him 200k now, but once he turns 31, hey, give him a contract where it's like you definitely get 200 grand for the next 3 years. And after that, you get 200 grand if you play, or in bonuses if you play, say, 20 plus games in the season or whatever. Figure it out. Figure something out, because we 1,000,000% need the guy to stay. Who shall we go with first? I guess Aspie, because he was still the more defensive of the two fullbacks. Unfortunately, like I touched on, did pull up his hamstring and had to be subbed off late on for Harvey Vale, pushing Christian Pulisic into the actual right-back position when in possession. Not a bad performance from Aspie at all, really. Nothing outstanding, but good. But it is a genuine problem, because, we couldn't even field a proper defense today. Not a proper defense, but in terms of we couldn't even field our normal 11 today, like a normal formation today, like Thomas Tuchel touched on, like we discussed a minute ago. And now another one of those is gone. Obviously, there is, a chance that by the time we play Tottenham again next week, obviously against Chesterfield, it might not necessarily be necessary, if I want to call it that. But hopefully Christensen and Chalobah can be back. I don't know how bad Chalobah's obviously re-injuring of his hamstring is, so probably not going to be back. But at least maybe Christensen, because I'm not quite sure what we're going to do. But to be honest, even Christensen, do we want to have Christensen playing right back? I swear next week we're going to have Rudiger starting right back, because that's what he did for Rowe a couple of times, obviously, before he ever joined us. But Azpilicueta, I'm not really sure what to give him, to be honest. I'd probably go with the 7, but I'll happily be convinced otherwise if some people make points that I hadn't considered, because, to be honest, Aspie was just good, but so good, and that's why I go above average. So that's why I go with 7, but I'm not 1,000,000% convinced on any particular rating just yet. So, Clutch, what's your assessment, I suppose, of Aspie today?
I think he was just very solid. He was also part of the reason why Son was held so in check today. Wasn't he the guy who crossed it to Lukaku for the open header that Lukaku missed?
No, that was Ziyech.
Was that Ziyech? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I think he was defensively stable like we needed him to be, and he didn't have to push up as high. Sometimes he did, but I think overall, this is kind of the Aspie I want, the guy who's going to sit back and be more defensively stable for us rather than push up higher. So he didn't have to play right wing back, and he didn't, unfortunately, still got a cramp because, all these players are playing a lot of games within a lot of minutes. So, but I'd probably go with the 7.
Fair enough. We'll go with Pice last this time. RJ, what do you reckon? Is 7 fair? Would you like to go a little bit higher than that? Because, hey, maybe you saw something that we've forgotten about.
Yeah, actually, the one thing I did notice that I took in my notes, and this is why I'd give him a 7.5. You cast your minds back to the start of the second half. Tottenham started off quite well. They whipped in a nice, dangerous ball, and Azpilicueta actually got in front of Son and blocked a direct header, which I think if he makes contact, Kepa's in a bit of trouble there. So it was that kind of play that could be hugely important, because if Tottenham scored that first goal right after half time, all of a sudden it's a whole different ball game. So coupled with the fact that he was very reliable as usual, and let's not forget, he was making the runs into the box. We saw a lot of crosses where they were going in and they were either just being deflected by Ben Davies or whoever it was at the back post. So he was giving his lung-busting runs in both attack and defence. But as I said, that telling play to get in front of Son from having a free header close to goal really ensured that we didn't have to panic after going 2-0 up. So I'd go for 7.5. That's just my personal view.
It is true. That was a very, very good block, I will say. Pice, 7.5, which side of the coin do you sit on?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything RJ said to us. I go to 7.5. Thought he was consistent. Luckily, it's just cramp and not a hamstring injury, but still we need to sign.
Has that been confirmed?
Yeah, it's cramp. It's confirmed by Tuchel.
Good news.
But we still need to sign, a wing back. I mean, Christensen and Chalobah are currently. Yeah, 2 ideally, but that's not going to happen, so I'm not even going to mention it.
No.
Probably really cool, like Dujon Sterling or someone for right wing back. But Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Aspie was good tonight, 100%. I don't really have much more to say. I agree with pretty much everything I just said, to be honest.
Fair dues. But to give you more to say, I'll let you go first, Marcus Alonso, because that assist for Kai Havertz, the way he intercepted the ball, and then the pass to Kai was perfectly weighted, honestly. I mean, yeah, it made Kai really have to sprint for it, but still, that made also Kai get away from the defender. That was vintage Alonso. That was bloody Conte Alonso. Maybe we should just invite Conte to every game just so Alonso plays like he did on the Conte's first season. I don't know, because that was phenomenal. I mean, yeah, there was some moments where he has his Alonso moments, sure. And interestingly, at least judging by what a few of the present journalists in Simon Johnson, Matt Law, and a couple of, and I think there's potentially as well, kept talking about the fact that, Tuchel kept shouting at Alonso in the first half and not being particularly happy with him. Not quite sure for what reasons, because I thought he was just decent. I mean, again, it's Alonso. I can't exactly expect him to be as great as Ben Chilwell. But, nothing much to criticize from my end. So, Pice, what do you make of Alonso's game?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to witness Pice give Alonso a good rating for once.
Oh, come on.
This is going to be a rare occasion, I think, because I don't really, like the player in terms of just how he plays football. But fair play tonight, he was good. I think it's going to sound a bit generic, but I want to give him. I want to give him another 7.5. I can't lie. There's a lot of 7.5s, but I think I would give him an 8. But especially for the assist and just his all-round game, I think was much better tonight. But I think Sarr, in terms of like just the defense, he was so involved, and I just think he was overall the best of our defense in terms of like taking in context as well of the player and different abilities. I think, and game time recently, I think it's gonna have to be another 7.5 for me. There's a lot of 7.5s tonight, but a lot better than recently, I have to say. Definitely better.
For sure. Hey, who would have thought that we'd ever see the day where Pice gives Alonso a 7.5? I mean, I thought he might be along the lines of Amaliba in the chat here saying Alonso is just always a 4. But to be honest, I can't completely disagree with you. Honestly, I think 7.5 might be fair. Clutch, what do you reckon? Is 7.5 fair for you?
As a bit boring as it might be, I think it is fair. I mean, I think it goes to show how bad Tottenham was today, because I think Alonso was actually destroying Tottenham for whatever reason. I mean, Alonso, moving at 0.3 miles per hour, intercepted a ball that was 20 yards ahead of him.
Now, to be fair, he was giving it his all. I mean, it might be 0.6, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just goes to show you. And that pass was pretty good to Havertz to set up the goal. So I think he was pretty good. I think he did his job better than normal. His passing was better today. He didn't seem like he was under pressure a lot. He was doing defensively. I don't think he got done in at all. So, I mean, unlike another player who gets defensively done in later in the game. But, hey, I'm going to go with the 7.5.
Fair dues. And RJ, would you go along with the same, or would you pick something different?
No, I would. I'd agree with the guys here. There is an argument to push him to the 8 just because how instrumental he was to setting us off on the front foot. It was a very well-timed telegraph of Tanganga's pass to get ahead of Royal and pass Peach, sublime effort to Havertz. But I just thought there were times, and maybe I'm a little bit critical of Alonso because I know technically he's quite strong, but we also know he's a little bit sluggish at times. We did have moments where if we were a little bit quicker and more decisive, we could maybe have finished off a good move. So I think there is occasions where I'd just like him to maybe be a little bit quicker with his passing, or elect to make the cross that for those who've made their way in. But overall, a very, very solid performance. But I'd like to see Sarr be the one that's called out as the dominant defender here. So I'd lock in the 7.5 too.
Fair. I definitely agree. I mean, again, I tried to word it in a way it's still Alonso, but essentially what that meant is what RJ just said. Sometimes there's a decision making is a bit slow, or it's like he's just a bit too slow. But hey, that happens. I said it for Giroud multiple times over the recent years, but I'm like, as much as I want to, I can't have a go at Giroud for being slow. It's not his fault that he's slow. I mean, it's the same with Alonso, and the same goes for Jorginho, who. Let's go with Jorginho next, because obviously he was maybe a tiny bit more defensive than Saul was. But But yeah, another good performance today. Let's see if there's another 7.5. We'll have to see. You know what, RJ? I'll go with you first. Is there another 7.5, or is that a different rating for you for Jorginho?
It's a tricky one because Jorginho does what he does best here. He was the metronome. He was the one making things tick over, but partially because he was allowed to operate so freely. But you can't criticize him for that. So he was such a silent, important contributor. I'd be leaning between a 7 and a 7.5, just because he wasn't outstanding by any means, but he was also just a busy worker doing things behind the scenes to make sure that the rhythm kept going and making sure the machine operated as fluidly as possible. So, look, my gut instinct would say a 7, just because some of his other midfield peers perhaps outshone him in this performance.
Fair enough. A 7 so far. Let's see what the other boys say. Clutch, what do you reckon?
See, I want to go with the 7.5, but that's boring. But there was one play he made where he fell over, and then he got back up immediately and made the challenge. And I think that's when Alonso caused the foul, or on the left-hand side. I'm not sure. But I think he was defensively stable. We've seen him make a lot of good passes. I think he had a good pass to Timo, too. I think down the side, if I remember correctly.
I think it was Saul.
Was it
he
Saul?
made I think it was the one where he made the tackle on Son, got up, got the ball back, and fed Timo Werner into the channel.
Yeah.
If that's the one you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, no, that's the one I'm talking about, yeah. So, yeah, you know what? I'll go with the 7. As much as I love Jorginho.
I would personally probably agree. Again, it was just a good performance. There was not many outrageous moments in the game. To be honest, there was a lot of moments where I didn't particularly notice him, but not in a bad way, but just like, okay, he's the guy keeping control for us, and then he kind of spraying it to like the people around him to start and create attacks. Maybe aside from the beginning of the game there, he was like more influential. There was one over the top ball, which no one quite got on the end of, but like he was a bit more involved, but that kind of settled down to more of a control role than anything else. But so I would probably go along with the 7. But Pice, would you really want your 7.5, or would you be happy with the 7 as well?
I mean, a lot of the chat are saying 8 actually, which is interesting. I think I kind of agree. Like, I wasn't noticing him too much, but then I'm just having a look at his stats now. I mean, the guy got 5 tackles, 3 interceptions, and won 9 out of 10 duels. Like, that's pretty impressive.
It is.
And I think the midfield today was a big reason why we dominated him. I thought him and Saul really just got really stuck in. That shows by the duels he won. This is a hard one for me because I think a lot of people are saying 8. Tempted to go 7. I was going to go 7.5, but I think the midfield was so vital today. But then again, Saul was obviously more involved and probably the better. You know what? I'll go with an 8. But I'll probably be outvoted.
No, hey, your 8 pushes our 7 to 7.5, and I think, to be honest, that's also perfectly fine for me. And hey, RJ said as well, it's kind of between the two, so I don't think any of us is going to have much of a problem with you. Now we move on to big Saul Niguez. I mean, I said it after his last performance already. Saul has arrived, and Saul has now not only arrived, he's even put all his clothes in his wardrobe, unpacked his suitcase, because bit of an ovation for him. What performance! The man was tackling like he's prime. I don't know who. Prime Gattuso. It was mad. What have I witnessed? It's crazy. I was a big fan. I'm gonna go high. Maybe I'm gonna go too high. I don't care. I was very, very impressed. And maybe it's similar as with Saar, that our expectation levels aren't particularly high. Hence why when we see a good performance, we rate it as a better performance than it might have been. But I was genuinely impressed in every sense of the word. And to be honest, I was a bit disappointed for him that he had to come off. Yes, he probably because he's going to start against Chesterfield on the weekend, but still, I thought the way he played and the way he, we had no problems with him on the pitch. I thought, to be honest, he could have stayed on and rather give Jorginho more rest, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But for me, he was our best player today. I'm going to go 9, and I think he was our man of the match. Honestly, I really do. Pice, do you agree with that? Maybe not the rating, but that he was our best player at least.
No.
Fair.
and I'll come to it. I think it could have been either or. But I think the rating, is fair enough. Yeah, you have to give him props, man. Like, he was getting so stuck in. Like, he was aggressive. He didn't shy well from duels. Like, he was good on the ball as well. Like, really, really good on the ball. He wasn't losing it. I think he's just adapted to the tempo a bit more now. I hope so anyway. I don't want to jinx anything, but yeah, the last couple of games, especially Brentford, looked really good. I believe it was Brentford when he played in the cup as well.
Last cup, yeah, exactly.
He's looking a lot better. I can't lie. He is. Yeah, nine's warranted because I think it's going to be kind of like a joint man of the match with my other guy. But yeah, maybe the other guy just nicks it. But I think 9 is fair enough. He had an amazing game, to be fair to him.
Fair dues. Fair dues. I go with Clutch next. Is 9 too high for you? Because I see a lot of people in the chat saying things like 8 and 8.5, which is clearly not too far off, but maybe not quite as high as myself and Pies have gone so far. So, what about you, Clutch?
No, I don't think it's too high. I don't think anybody gets higher than a 9 today, but
no, for sure.
I think you're in that mix of. For me, I would probably agree with everything that Pius said. I think 9 is a good rating for him because he deserves it. He was truly one of the best players out there, and him and the other guy, who I think I'm going to agree with Pius later on that, just really influenced the game more. The tackle that he made off the fast break where he came in and challenged Son, that was a really good. And the pass to Timo down the channel. I think overall we seen a better Saul that we kind of expected to sign at the beginning of the season. It took him a bit to get into the rhythm of the game. I think, again, Tottenham was just that bad. I think their midfield was absolutely one of the worst midfields I've seen in a very, very long time. They just allowed us to do whatever we want to get under control, and we took advantage of that. And I think Saul was one of the big parts of that. And I'd probably go with the 9.
Exactly. Well, one other thing before I put it to RJ, that I'm really happy to see from him, especially in the last 2 games, like Pies mentioned, this one and Brentford in the last round of the Carabao Cup, is he's I'm not going to call it a leader just yet, but very vocal and very demanding and commanding in terms of telling people where to pass, telling people, when to push, telling people like pass it quickly, him as much as he possibly can, always keeping it 1 or 2 touch. Like, honestly, very, very happy in really every sense of the word with him today, RJ. Would you go along with that? And would your rating reflect that as well? Or would you go slightly lower than ourselves?
Yeah, look, it'd be safe to say 9, but my gut feel was a 9 is almost like not an out of this world, but a really substantial improvement from everybody else. And I thought, are we being very complimentary of him just because of how much he has struggled to adapt? Like, if this was Jorginho doing the same result, or Kovacic, would they be getting a 9? Because the benchmark or the variation is not as big. So look, his numbers were very strong. You look at, Squawka Football, it's 89% pass accuracy, the 6 tackles, which was the most, 3 interceptions. And I highlighted the one where he tackled Son and started that counter attack with Werner. He was personally my man of the match, slightly ahead of the other guy, slash the Moroccan magician. But it's one of those things where I thought, a 9 just feels touch high, but at the same time, it was a fantastic display. And I'm so happy for him, because we really need to be able to depend on him, especially right now when our players are dropping left, right, and centre. So look, a fantastic game overall. If the team wants to lock in a 9, you're not going to get a violent reaction. But I just thought, how good was it to see him play so confidently and affect both facets of play?
For sure. No, he could not echo those words anymore, to be honest. It's a weird one because Mount was more part of the midfield, but Ziyech was kind of still right wing back at times. But I will go with Mount first because we're kind of finishing off the midfield. It's going to be interesting because I saw a lot of very high ratings for Mason in the chat. I'm not sure if people were taking the piss because did I think it was bad? No. But did I think it was amazing? Personally, I didn't, but maybe I just didn't see something other people did. I don't know. We'll
taking the piss.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, exactly. So now I'm asking you, Price. What did you make of his performance?
No, I think your reaction's like my reaction, like he taking the piss, because I thought he was like one of the most I mean, worst players sounds harsh because we won, but I just didn't really notice him much today. I can't lie. Like, I feel like he ghosted quite a bit. Unless some of you guys can notice, I mean, RJ is good with remembering plays from the game, but I don't really remember him involved too much unless I'm missing something.
He had a couple of shots from outside the box, but I think most of them were blocked.
Yeah, a couple of shots, a couple ones that got blocked out for corners, but I mean, very weird. Just not really involved. I mean, I'm gonna have to give him an average 6, to be honest.
Fair enough. I will let RJ go. Sorry. Oh, I thought you were going to say more pies. But yeah, I will put it to RJ because maybe he can help us out and tell us something that we haven't noticed. So, is there something you noticed that we haven't? Hence, why we should go higher with the rating for Mason, or would you potentially go along with the average 6?
Yeah, look, to me that is probably a touch too harsh on him. I agree he wasn't as influential. Like, I wrote down a few things. Like you said, he had a couple of shots blocked when maybe he could have laid it off for Alonso, but then again, we highlighted the fact that sometimes Alonso showed that he wasn't making the best decisions, or he felt entitled to have a shot. He also did play a very dangerous slow cross in, which Lukaku would have got on the end of, but Lloris made a last gasp interception. And he also had that nice moment where he brought down the ball and did that flick touch to draw the foul at the start of
which, by the way, should have been is the clearest yellow card I've ever seen at that.
Exactly, because if he gets through, the counter attack is alive and well. So that was bemusing. But look, a 6 would almost suggest that everybody else played super well and he didn't. Like, I just felt the fact that we collectively played so strong. And you got to remember, for as dominant as we were in the midfield, and we kept changing our formation, he was a player that kept dropping deep. You recall an occasion to help support that midfield pivot, but he was also leading from the front. So you got his usual busy self, but the fact that he was overshadowed by players like Ziyech, the players like Saul, and obviously Havertz as well, which we'll get onto, I think that probably is what working against him. My gut feel is I agree he was lesser impactful than the other players, but I would go with a 7 personally. But maybe that's because there's a bit of bias in his overall contribution, not this game maybe.
I hear you. I put it to Clutch to see where we roughly end up with. What you reckon?
As much as I love him, Mason Mount, he's my second favorite player, and this is probably closer to what I think his natural position is. I just don't think he was as involved as he should, as much as he can be. He does look tired. He does. I mean, even tired Mason's kind of impressive. The fact that he still gets down the field as much as he does, but it does look like he's tired. I mean, I don't like the shots that I like that he's taking shots. I just don't like that it's getting blocked and we're not doing more with those shots. RJ made a good point. He was the one coming back to help defensively more than other players were. So, I mean, yeah, I'm going to tend to probably agree with the 6.5. I'm going to sit in the middle. I'm going to go on the fence here. But I think he's tired. I think he needs a rest. And good thing Chesterfield's this weekend.
It is true. I bloody hope he gets a rest. And the reason he was subbed off wasn't because he's playing Chesterfield as well. Yeah, the problem was, before I asked you guys about it, I was stuck between a 6 and a 6.5, and here I am, still being stuck between a 6 and a 6.5. Hey, I mean, in the end, we dropped Kepa to the 8, but, I gave him that 8, and we gave it to Saul and stuff, so I think I'm going to be, go along with the positivity and give him that 6.5, but, like someone said in the chat as well, out of the play, well, someone said the least influential player today. I firmly disagree with that. I was clearly Lukaku in my eyes, but sure, and we'll get to that. Maybe I'm the only one that sees it that way. But we move on to Hakim Ziyech. Clutch. I just stick with you. What'd you make of it? You hinted on initially that maybe not quite as high as Saul, or maybe similar, but certainly a good performance from him today. Again, almost deserving extra praise for. To be honest, also Mason Mount and Ziyech kind of playing two positions at one, but Ziyech's two positions were further away from each other than Mason's two positions.
No, I think he's just slightly the man of the match ahead of Saul. I think he was the one creating most of the chances when they were coming in. His pass to Timo was absolutely insane. Unfortunately, we still have Timo doing Timo things. The pass to Lukaku from way down, that pass was insane that Lukaku kind of like dribbled out. So I think his passing, that kind of passing range is something we just can't replace in this team. I'm usually very critical of him, as I've been told multiple times that I don't give him a credit that I need to. I think today we're going to give him a 9 because I do think he was exceptional at everything, and he was playing 2 positions. He got back and played defense, and he played defense pretty well. I think the passing was his strongest thing today, and he had a couple shots that probably could have gone in if he was playing a little bit more too, to be fair.
Now you've raised an interesting point, which might change my own opinion on this. But fair enough. I'll put that 9 down for now. Let's see whether we stick with that, whether we go high or whether we go lower in the end. Pice, you also hyped it up already, so I'll just let you go next for Hakim Ziyech. What do you reckon? 9? I mean, you said maybe he even edges it over Saul, or, well, you didn't say his name, but I firmly presume you mean him. So would you go 9.5 or would you go 9 and almost just a bit of a better
9.5. 9.5 for me, close to perfect. Played 2 positions, created 4 big chances, 4 key passes I've got down here. He was so creative. I think on Sky Sports as well, they did like a stat thing, and in every like attacking stat, he ranked first for Chelsea. Today he was close to perfect, just missed those couple of chances. I think if he got a goal, it would have been a 10. I don't see how you can go any lower than a 9.5. He was absolutely fantastic today. And you could see that with the freedom that Tuchel gave him, drifting in centrally, out to right, back to right wing back. He was everywhere. Spurs couldn't stop him, honestly. That's the Ziyech I want to see, because if we have that Ziyech, he can't be stopped because he's so unpredictable. But it's maybe what we've said before is, does he fit the system when he's limited to the right forward position? He's kind of predictable, right? But when he gets the license to roam, now you're talking. Now you're talking about a dangerous player. And we can't replace his left foot. His left foot is fantastic. Yes, there was a couple of times where he might have overhit one of the crosses. I remember a couple of times down the right hand side. But there was also that time which he played it into Lukaku, and that ball to Werner was, honestly, I straight away said to myself, that was Sheffield United at home. Do you remember that ball? Exactly the same. Do you remember what Werner did? Werner chipped it and missed. This time Werner chipped it and missed. It was like we went back a few months and then replayed that. For me, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Fair dues. RJ, I'll go to you next. 9, 9.5, potentially 8.5. Where do you sit in Hakim Ziyech, and how would you assess his performance?
So what did we end up with Saul in the end? Was it 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, for me, I'd go with a 9. Like a 9.5 would suggest near perfect, and respectfully, I don't agree it was near perfect. I agree it was a very high level of performance, but the reality is if Tottenham scored a goal or two, there's a couple of times when he did miss some big chances. They were big chances he did miss on top of the ones he created. So he should have got a couple of assists. I agree.
RJ, can I just add? What about the defensive work he did though today? I think defensively, very good.
Yeah. No, go on. About the defensive contribution, I thought was, and that's actually one of the things I highlighted, Price. In the first half, there was a very big tackle he made on Doherty. He was making one of the very rare runs that they did make. So I agree he was phenomenal. And I think a 9 just sits better with me because of the fact he did, at the crucial moment at times, wasn't clinical with his chances, and I expected a bit better knowing how good his left foot is. And there was the one situation with him and Lukaku, who there was, I think, Werner passed it to Lukaku fed him, and it was the first time shot, and he was right at Lloris in the middle of the goal when he had everything opened up for him. And if you're going to take the shot, you have to at least work him. And it was actually even Lukaku waiting in the edge of the box, who arguably might have been in a better position. So it's just one of those things where phenomenal game, can understand why he would be given man of the match. But a 9.5, I feel it just almost acknowledges the fact that some of the things he did, some of the chances he missed just weren't there. So look, man of the match, let's give it a thumbs up. But I'll lock in a 9. If you guys want to go 9.5, then I'm happy to be outruled on this one.
Now, personally, Lewis, you just talk when you're ready or when you're on camera. I'm not sure.
Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. Everywhere they go.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And also big shout out to Amit for the super chat. But last time he super chatted me, last stream, I got the WhatsApp after, mate. I need those £2 back because I just did that for, creative effect. I was like, no. But, clearly it was a joke. But appreciate it a lot, Amit. And yeah, no, exactly. Obviously the same as Lewis. Lewis, I'll let you speak on Ziyech as well in a second if you want to. Unfortunately for you, Pice, but everybody remember that Pice really was happy with Hakim Ziyech today before you say that he has an agenda again in 2 weeks when he doesn't want to start him. So, no, he doesn't. He rated him very highly today. I wanted to give him a 9.5. For me, I give him extra credit for the two positions. I think his actual performance is an 8.5. I know Pice is going to try to punch me in the head now. But I give him that 0.5 extra for essentially playing two positions because like RJ said, especially the first one that Lukaku set up for him, that's a poor effort. The volley is super difficult, and I do see Clutch's point. If he had more minutes, there's maybe a chance that he does better at that chance because those volleys are just difficult. But he could have scored both of them, especially on a day where he has as good of a day as he did today. That's why I'm like, but the ball for Werner was just like, Timo Werner is a robber. And he bloody robbed Hakim Ziyech of an outrageously beautiful assist today, honestly. But
Typical.
what ball? Typical, yeah, unfortunately, typical. But Lewis, what do you make of Ziyech today? Who was your man of the match? For me, it's Saul, and for Python, potentially Clutch as well.
For me,
What's
it's
Ziyech?
Saul as
How
well.
would you see?
I see a Saul too. I can't lie. Ziyech was good, but I thought it was another game in phases, to be honest. But we've seen so many bad performances from Ziyech. I'm not going to take it away from him now. He deserves it, and I hope it builds his confidence too. But yeah, Saul, round of applause, man. What a performance from him. His composure is really starting to show in the last few games too. Playing the back four, left back Alonso dominated Tottenham. Like, oh my gosh. But Spurs were horrific. We have to be real. Like, we played amazing. That's our best performance in months. But it's also because Tottenham were just horrific. Like, they couldn't string 3 passes together. Composure was not there. There was defensive calamities left, right, and centre. And we capitalised on it. Capitalised on a poor Tottenham team, but they're the ones that are meant to be improved. They're the ones that are meant to have the better mentality under Antonio Conte. I just saw the same old Tottenham roll up to Stamford Bridge and get rolled over. But I'm not going to complain about it. Is what it is. Absolutely dominates them. We're a strong position going into the second leg. Tottenham get battered. All of that. Great performance.
There you go. Could not echo those words more. But Lewis, I'll actually stick with you. Kai Havertz got his goal, broke his finger. Productive day for him, eh?
Yeah, I saw him bodying Tanganga at points in the match, and I'm liking how his aggression starting to show in game 2. Obviously, very unlucky with the dislocation, but still played on in spite of that, and was a good performance. I'd give him a 6.5, 7. Like, I thought it was a good performance. Obviously, you have to take into account he only played 45 minutes, but it was a strong 45 minutes when he was on the pitch.
Fair dues. 6.57. I might have personally gone a little bit higher, but it's difficult. Obviously, Lewis was at the game, right? Were you?
Nah, Don Robbie.
Don Robbie, fair dues. Because often from TV, what I struggle with sometimes with Kai, maybe it wasn't just my focus was more on where the ball was rather than where he was running about to. When I saw him on the ball, great, but I didn't see him on the ball that much, both for him and Lukaku. Still more than Lukaku. We'll get to Lukaku in a minute. But yeah, I personally have probably gone... He did score, though. And he did score the only goal that we actually scored. And I think he scored it because I think his shot was going in even until the deflection. Difficult. I'm going to go 7.5, but I'm stuck between a 7.5 and an 8. Maybe that's too high because considering Lewis just went 6.5 to 7. So let's see what the other boys say. Price, how do you see it?
Well, I mean, as you said, he only played a half, but he did score, and I thought he was involved in a lot of our attacks. To be fair, it's between a 7 and 7.5. I think, to be honest, we've given Alonso a 7.5 for an assist and an all-round decent game, and when Havertz was on, he did the same thing. So I'll go 7.5. I think he deserves it for the goal as well, and I think. Yeah, overall, I think he was pretty good, to be fair. And he played on played on through the pain with a broken finger, which is always nice. I mean, if any of you have seen the pictures, then it's disgusting, but yeah.
There you go. There you go. No, I do see what you're saying. Like maybe we've just gone for all of the players, gone a little bit higher than Lewis would have gone, and so obviously you said the 6.5 to 7. That could well be the case. But I do kind of agree with what you said there. If Alonso gets to 7.5, Kai needs to get a 7.5. But maybe we'll see. Clutch, would you go along with that assessment by that logic? Or would you still go a bit lower for him?
I mean, on that logic, I'd probably go with the 7.5. I think Kai was, of the two, by far the more influential out of him and Lukaku. So dangerous things happened when we started getting the ball to Havertz, but he just didn't get the ball as much after he dislocated his finger. But he still played through the pain. I'd probably go with the 7.5. I thought he was really good, and especially when I don't like the two at the front normally, and I think it suits Lukaku better than it suits Havertz. But Havertz today was a lot better than Lukaku.
I agree. RJ, how do you see it? Is 7.5 too high for you? Is it too low for you? What would you like to go with? Obviously, you only played one half, and that was our better half. But,
yeah, that's a good points that have been made by the panel here. And look, my initial thoughts were, while he was on the pitch, obviously big caveat because he's only on there for half, played through a pain barrier. Let's be honest, Alonso was the key person who set up that goal. Havertz did use his physicality and speed to get in a great position, and the goal was kind of fortuitous because obviously it deflected heavily and off Sanchez. So if it doesn't go in, he gets criticised for that potentially. But also, even at the very beginning of the game, if you guys remember, he wins that header that sets Lukaku free. Had Lukaku played a better pass or had a better shot, all of a sudden his influence and impact on the game is already up here because of how well he started. So it's one of those situations where I thought you could visibly see he was quite busy and involved in pressing from the front. And there were a couple of exchanges that him and Mount had, which actually led to, you might recall, there was a 1-2 with him and Mount in the middle where they laid it off to Ziyech and he killed it just over the bar, top left-hand corner. So, look, for me, 7.5 is probably touch and go. I'd say 7.5. So I could live with that end result just because of we know he played in pain and was obviously played a big role in the first goal. So, yeah, 7.5 I could live with, but my natural gut tells me it's more of a 7 just because of the whole 45-minute factor as well.
It's a tough one in terms of what do we sit on when we now have 5 different ratings. Again, like we did with the other guys where we were like slightly on the edge. I'll push it to give him the higher one. You know, we beat Tottenham. It's a great day. So why not?
Positivity. Fuck it.
There you go. There you go. But then let's get to a man where I'm not sure how much positivity is there to be shared because the man didn't look like he was playing at Stamford Bridge. The man looked like he wanted to play at Inter again. Because where the hell was actually Lukaku? Where was he? I mean, no one tried to pass to him, which is a problem in and of itself. But once he'd ran the ball off the pitch and slipped, another time he took an awful first touch. No, actually, that's a lie. It was a bad ball by Kovacic. I take it back, Lukaku. But maybe he should spend some more time training his headering rather than giving interviews. Then he would have scored a goal today. Do you know what I mean? Like, and hey, we said that when we were speaking about Lukaku. If you do shit like that, we're going to be more critical. And I'm being more critical. I definitely wouldn't have been as critical right now without this drama. But he caused the drama, so here we are. I was not particularly pleased. I thought it was pretty damn awful. And I was like, it looked like Lukaku as if the Brighton and Villa game never happened. But that's what he played like to me. And even though we gave him, I don't want to play in a 3-4-3, the manager chose to stick to the system. Now he gives you a better system and you're still shit. Unlucky, mate. Yeah, I'm going to go 4, and that's being nice, personally. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe I'm being critical. I don't know. But I had to let it out, all right? I had to let it out. RJ, you're certainly a bit more reasonable than I am. I would expect you to be anyway. But maybe you're also as emotionally still angry. So maybe you will also go low. But do you think I've gone too low? Because if I'm being totally objective, maybe it wasn't quite a 4. But, you know.
No, look.
He caused the emotions.
I agree with you, mate. And I support Inter back in Italy as well. And he's hurt both of my clubs. So I certainly just want him to deliver on the field now because I've had enough of his off-field nonsense. And this was an opportunity to start the motions of setting things right through delivery of his goals and assists. But the key points that I took of his contribution, and happy for anybody else to call out anything else, the first minute, as I said, he fluffed his lines by passing the ball behind Havertz. He didn't shoot, so that was a chance wasted. He fell over and ran the ball out from that quick counter-attack started by Kai. He did earn a nice foul when he took on Sanchez. He headed just wide from Ziyech's amazing cross when he really should have done better. He had a first-time shot in the 52nd minute, which was an easy save. And the only real one positive thing I could really find was that he's the one who laid off that pass to Ziyech, who we saw where he fluffed his lines and hit it straight at Lloris. So, look, when you look at the big things that he was involved in throughout the game, he was under average, he was below average. So, look, 4.5, I'd be inclined to go with, just because we expected better from him, especially considering the context and all the noise he created. So, I would support you. He was, very below average today.
Someone said here, Lukaku drew defenders. What did Mount do? Play a different position, mate. But see, I agree. It's just like, and when he made that run, even though the pass back to Kai wasn't great, and then also him complaining, why didn't you run there? Do you know what I mean? I was like, come on. You're not in a position to have a go at anybody, right? But he looked like he was, going for him. Like really like up for it, and he's steaming past players, even that when he tried to put it around Davies and Sanchez and run around him, even though he didn't quite get back at the end of the ball. The start was lively, but the longer the game went on, the more invisible he became. That he had the one volley. I mean, RJ just mentioned it early in the second half. I'm like, again, you're a 97.5 million pound striker. Like, Giroud would have probably scored the volley. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we got 1 million for Giroud. 1 million.
And he's been in good form too, Laurenz, as well. Before the noise, he'd gone and scored 2 back-to-back goals as well. So I wasn't expecting such this cliff diving performance from him. And I know he'd be distracted, but he was very underwhelming, I'd have to add. Yeah, and he exactly agree with Fantasy PGA Tour here. Still doesn't press. Still doesn't know how that works, even though he claims in every interview he gives that he's so great at pressing and great at everything. But,
you know what? I disagree with that. I thought he worked quite hard tonight from what I saw.
But at his pace, look at how Mount presses and Havertz presses and Ziyech presses.
Yeah, but he's never going to be a Mount though. He's like, but he's a big guy, Laurenz. You got to take into account he's not like a slim guy like that.
That is true, but then don't tell me in an interview you can press like the others.
I can't lie. I've lost the will to give Lukaku a lot of leeway, and I do notice that he was playing off the shoulder a lot more, which fair enough. He also didn't get a lot of service, so he wasn't going to get a lot of touches on the ball. But he still wasn't really that impressive for me, and I would have wanted a bit more impact from him on the pitch as well. Like for me, as long as Lukaku scores, I don't really care too much. But I now need to see goals and assists from him. I can't be asked for the patience game. So I personally did want to see a bit more.
Would you go as low as a 4, or would you go 4.5, 5?
I'd go 5. No, he wasn't terrible. He just wasn't really there.
Fair dues, Pikes. I mean, you just...
See,
I was going to say clutched in there, but that's not a word, is it?
No, I don't know. I feel like maybe some of you guys are acting a little bit out on anger, which is totally understandable. And I do agree with you that he wasn't exactly amazing tonight, but I think you guys are missing the point. I think his hold-up play was absolutely fantastic tonight from what I saw. There was a lot of occasions where he brought players into play. And I think now it's hard for Lukaku because now all he's going to get judged on is goals and assists. People don't care about little bits of the game like his all-round game now, as they did before, because I don't think they care to take notice. They don't care to praise him now. They just want goals and assists. And I understand that, but I think, I'm not going to give him a super high rating. I'll give him a 5.5, but I think it's not. I don't think it's as bad as some of you guys are saying. I mean, even the header when I watched it back wasn't even that close to the goal, to be honest. It wasn't like a sitter or anything. It was actually very close. I don't
Maybe
know.
it's a bit harsh.
He's a £100 million striker, and he had a free header. It has to be on target. I don't care if it's just wide.
Yeah, I mean, some of his shots were not great. I mean, they were hitting the goalkeeper straight down the central of the goal, but I don't know. Like I don't. He wasn't great, but his hold-up play was very good in my opinion. Like I think he helped us still, but by your guys' ratings, you're kind of telling me that you just think he was rubbish. Kind of is what I'm getting at.
I just thought it was a bit
I think
invisible,
he
but
was
I do hear what you're saying with the hold-up
But
play.
see, like that's
Maybe
where
I'll
I
be in a bit
disagree,
harsh.
Lewis, because I don't think he was invisible. I thought Mount was more invisible than Lukaku today, personally.
But he had
I
a lot less
didn't really see a lot of
responsibility,
Mount
didn't he?
either. I will be real with you on that.
I think we was. Look, I mean, Lukaku was always offering for the ball, but half the time, no one wanted to fucking pass to him. I can't lie. It was quite hard. I mean,
finish off your
occupy
rating, and then I'll go to Clutch, because then I want before we do the subs, I want to have a quick discussion. Do we think whether the players purposely didn't pass? And we'll get to some touches, stats, and whatever. So keep what you want to say about that just for a second, and just finish off rating. Guys?
Oh, me. No, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I just think maybe a little bit too harsh. Like I've given like Alonso like 4.5 when he's had absolute stinkers. So I think I don't know. I just don't think it was a stinker. I think 5.5 is just a bit above average, and that's because of his hold-up play. I thought his hold-up play was brilliant, personally.
See, now I'm not gonna say I disagree with you, but I can't. But that might be also my slight annoyance at him still. I can't really remember any particularly great hold-up moments. But again, I'm not saying that doesn't mean they didn't happen. It just means I personally can't remember them. So I'll go to you, Kutch. First of all, do you remember them? And regardless of that, what would you rate him? Obviously, we sit at I push it up now with a current, democratic 5, but obviously that can be pushed back down again.
Is 5 average or is 6 average?
Whatever you see fit.
I'll say 6 personally, but
if
your
6
choice.
is average, he was below average. I mean, the passes that he did get to him, he didn't dribble quite well. The one time he did dribble well, he tried to cross it when he probably should have shot. For me, I'd probably go with a 5. I think that's where I'm at. He was not great today. Like his hold-up play, sure, was. I don't remember it, but if Pius says it was, sure. But I think there was a lot of decisions that he made. He got bodied by Sanchez once when the ball came in, when he easily should have knocked him off. I mean, he's a much bigger guy than Sanchez. There should have been no reason he got pushed over. It wasn't. And I know people are like, yeah, with all this noise, you're not going to play well. He caused that noise at the end of the day. No one told him to do that. He did it himself. It's his fault the noises even exist. So to even use that as an excuse for him, no, don't make excuses for him. All the things that are happening, he made the decision. So yes, now he's got to go out and perform. Yes, it's a little harsh to say 4 maybe, but at the same time, he's got to perform. That's what he's got to do. The media did not overhype it. He said some really stupid things, and now he's got to atone. That's what we said. His apology, and then he's just got to go out there and play. Today, he did not play well. Sorry.
No, I agree. And personally, I drastically disagree with people that say he wasn't worse than Mount, really, because he was. Because Lukaku was only a striker. He only had one job to do, and he failed at doing that job. Mason Mount was doing 2 jobs, was being part of the attack and part of in defense and midfield 3. They kept a clean sheet. Sure, the defense isn't, the midfield isn't all of that, but he still did another thing. While Lukaku just did one thing and didn't even do that right. So that's why like I said, I would have gone 4, but fair enough. We sit on the 5 here. Now, I do want to discuss that quickly. Did anybody else see, like myself, that people seem to, that the other players, other than when they had to, didn't seem to particularly interested in passing to? I mean, he had 26 touches. It's not a lot, Really.
Lack of crosses, I thought.
Story of the season, to be honest.
Yeah, but I've never seen it like this, where I felt like, especially Ziyech, to me, looked like he did want to pass to Lukaku. It was close range passes. I'm not saying when they crossed the ball. Obviously, when you're in a position to cross, they didn't purposely try to harm Chelsea by not trying to pass to Lukaku. So when playing to Lukaku was the only option, then they did that. And also Lukaku had 9 accurate passes. 9, and you're telling me he did more than Mount? Sorry, that's waffle. Anyway, but did anybody else see that or feel that other players didn't really want to pass to Lukaku? RJ, what about you?
Look, to be honest, and I've seen this a lot before he got injured, I feel as if sometimes Lukaku's involvement he tends to jump in and out of games just because of the ebb and flow of things. And then we do ultimately rely on him for the big clutch moments, which in this game, he failed to capitalize on them. And we will give him the acknowledgement that perhaps he was distracted by his own volition. But ultimately, I don't think there's any particular sort of player-driven purpose to not want to engage him. I just felt at times, because of his physical presence and people know about just how good he can be, he often creates a lot of pressure around him and a lot of attention. So it's not all too surprising the fact that he isn't engaged as much, because he does inadvertently create space for others. And that's why I felt the likes of Havertz, the likes of Ziyech, the likes, all these players had a lot more opportunity because he was one that was attracting all of this attention. But that said, I feel like we could have been a little bit more engaging with him, but equally he could have done a bit more to get himself involved. So it's a what's it called? Two-edged sword for him. But I'm just keen to see now how he bounces back from this performance, because he was the freshest out of the lot, mind you. Mount was tired. Havertz was tired. They're all running on wounded legs. Lukaku's just come back from injury, scored in back-to-back games, got himself a free rest for the Liverpool game, which everybody ran off their feet, and he got a free pass. And he came back today and didn't run himself into the ground because he's a little bit bigger than the others. I understand that. But now we're going to want him to put this average, below average performance behind him and really start to deliver on his £100 million investment. So we'll see.
Does anybody know where I can find right now already stats how much distance each player covered? Or can I find that now already?
Would that be whoscored.com?
Would they have it? RJ, Pice, would you guys know? Mate, Clutch?
Not too sure, to be honest. Potentially.
Yeah, have a look.
Yeah, have a look.
You have a look, and I'll ask Pice. What do you reckon? Did you feel the players didn't really want to pass to him?
No, I mean, I just said, I think just a lack of crosses. I want you guys, maybe next game that he plays, to just notice how much time he puts his hand up calling for the ball. And I just noticed every time he put his hand up today, like a player would look at him like Aspi, for example, and then just pass sideways or pass out wide. I thought it was just quite funny, actually. I thought, I don't know, just a lack of crosses, I thought. Generally, that's what I have to say about it. I think when you play a big guy like that, I think especially,
I mean,
especially when we had a lot of time to cross, especially when we had a lot of time to cross the ball, and had a lot of space. I thought, I don't know. I just think, I don't know. I don't think we made the best of him. I don't think he made the best of himself either. Don't get me wrong, but still, I mean, he was the big guy in the middle occupying two centre backs, and I just think maybe we could have got him involved more, because as you were saying, he drifted out to the right channel a lot. He wasn't static. So I mean, with the little touches he had, it does show that something went wrong somewhere. And I think you have to look at both perspectives, not just one.
That is fair. I mean, Lewis, obviously you weren't at the ground either, but did you feel like players weren't passing to him, or was that over?
I wasn't really focusing on Lukaku too much when he was on the ball, to be fair. I did see one or two instances where he was making runs and it was ignored, but I've got to a point where I just expect it, because it's the way it's always been. Lukaku always makes runs in games and it gets ignored. Same thing when Werner's in the middle. Just always happens. So I'm not too surprised of hearing that.
Fair dues and Clutch, just lastly.
I'm on the same page as Lewis. I didn't see it too much, but I also didn't see Lukaku try to get involved as much as he probably could have. You can tell that Werner was making the runs, but
You could tell that, for sure. You could tell that. RJ does unfortunately have to leave in a couple of minutes. So just as giving you a quick chance to finish basically the ratings off in terms of the subs. Obviously, we were not going to rate every sub in quite a detail. But Timo Werner we will do, because obviously he did play a full half. So Timo Werner for you, RJ. What would you rate his second half performance?
Look, I know perhaps a bit controversial, but I thought he gave quite an encouraging display. He was very lively. The guy just came back from COVID, and that's the context. He's not going to hit the ground running. It's not like other players who had a spare game with no physical conditions to battle with. but he did miss, that chance. He had the shot where he just narrowly curled it around the bar after cutting back in. I thought, overall quite a positive display. With that chance Ziyech pinged to him, which was arguably the pass of the season from my recency bias at least, I actually thought it was the right decision to try to lob because the ball was bouncing, and unfortunately Lloris just anticipated it well and got a hand to it. If when luck's not your way, it goes your way sometimes. So, look, overall, I would probably give Werner between a 6.5 and a 7. I just thought he played really well when coming on, looked very bright, and I actually thought he played well.
I just move on with you straight away before ourselves finish them off. After you have head off, Kovacic and Loftus-Cheek came on in the 73rd minute both together. What do you make of their performances?
Yeah,
keep it as short and quick as you need to, so you can still head off.
Thanks very much. I thought another good cameo following his unbelievable performance against Liverpool. Quite strong, really solidified that midfield spot. Unfortunately, did underhit that pass a little bit for Rom, I believe. There was one situation where he did peel off, but overall another reliable performance from our Croatian sensation. I'd probably go a 6.5 as well. But is there a question mark here about how long his cameo was? I don't know how you normally do things.
Subs get a star rating because it's kind of different. So a 6.5 for a sub isn't the same as a 6.5 for a guy that played 70 minutes.
Yeah. So not brilliant, but also still quite a good display. I'd go 6.5 for Kovacic. And Pulisic, I think, as well. Look, he had to play a couple of different positions. Obviously, he had to fill in the wing back spot. And then he did play forward quite a fair bit on the right-hand side. So, again, nothing crazy. He did overhit a couple of crosses, but he was looking to at least get involved. He wasn't a passenger by any means. He did concede a very dangerous chance to Gil, I believe. He's the one who turned him inside out. And because of that, that's got to work against his overall rating. So I'd probably give him between a 5.5 and a 6, just because I thought that was a pretty big moment in the game. Had Tottenham scored, it changes the narrative. And then lastly, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, 100th appearance, I believe.
Yes.
He had a few good touches, a few good driving runs. He did feed, I think, Pulisic or Werner at one point, but nothing too captivating.
One for Werner, one for Pulisic.
Exactly. So, look, for me, I'd probably lock in just a 6 overall.
And for Harvey Vale, I presume we're just going to go for an A because he wasn't quite on the pitch for long enough.
Yeah, but nice to see him get on the pitch, though.
Sure, and hopefully a start on the weekend against Chesterfield, I would say. But ladies and gentlemen, one last one for you, RJ. Who do I put it with? I put it with Lukaku, just, for sake of the last few days. We do tend to give out a rating for the manager. How do you think he handled things today? Obviously, you can include more than the match itself. You can include, still the Lukaku stuff if you want to. But, for once we played a different formation and even bloody that worked. So,
Yeah, no, for me, I've got to give, I don't want to be too dramatic. It wasn't a perfect display, but it was just about, but feeling good beating Spurs in the mud and bottle job as they are. I'll give him a 10, given the context. He's got a lot of wounded warriors, no Mendy, AFCON, no Reece James, no Chilwell, no Silva, no Kante. These are 5 incredible players, and he's had to work with...
No Chalobah, no Christensen.
No Christensen as well, and another player that we sometimes tend to forget. But given the troops he was working with, Saul had a fantastic game. Ziyech played with such inspiration, was very dangerous. And the new system, albeit a bit forced his hand a little, he outclassed Conte. And we know how good Tottenham have been in recent times under Conte. So, dominant from start to finish, and a lot of the credit should go to Tuchel.
Fair dues. Ladies and gentlemen, big shout out to RJ. Follow him on Twitter. You can see his handle on screen, and obviously links down in the description. Check out his written work as well. RJ, big shout out to you for coming on. Appreciate it a lot. I wish you a good day because it's early in the morning for you down under, is it not?
Absolutely is. We're approaching mid-morning, and it's a fine day to be a Blues fan. Thanks again, and hope you guys are well. Take care.
See you, bro.
Take care, RJ. Cheers.
Take care, bro.
Later.
All right, boys. What shall we do about those ratings then? Timo Werner, 7. Personally, RJ said 6.5 or 7, but we've gone along with the positivity so far. So maybe we should be doing that. I'd probably back it. Yeah, the lob he had to go for the lob. The only problem with the lob is that he made, a bit like Morata all those years ago, made the lob so obvious that Lloris read him a mile off. That was the only problem with it. The effort itself wasn't bad. Like, it would have gone in, and, it was just, to be honest, a good save. But because he made it a bit obvious, the goalie could save it, could read it. But especially the shot that RJ mentioned when he cut inside and just put it wide of the far post, or did he put it just over, whichever one of the two it was. I was pretty pleased with it. Lewis, well, what did you make of Timo when he came on? Looked sharp, I thought.
Yeah, he was on it, pressing well. Good movement as well. Didn't get picked out a few times typically, but it is what it is. Should have buried that Ziyech pass, but it's the same old Tuchel performance, really. Werner performance, really. Just very energetic, all over the place. Had a positive impact on the match.
Fair dues. Would you stick with the 7, though?
Nah, I'd go down to about 6.
Fair dues. Fair dues. Let's leave it at 6.5 for the time being, then. I'll go to you, Clutch. What was it for you, Timo's performance?
If I'm going to criticize everybody else's lack of finishing in the front three, I'm going to criticize his. I think it's a 6. I mean, like I said, we tend to forget what Timo Werner brings to this team until he comes back and misses things like that. He does everything else right. It's just the end product and the touches. His touches were better today. I'm not going to lie about that, but I can't do it. I can't give somebody praise for everything, but not address that. Like, that was a really bad miss. And unfortunately for Ziyech, such a brilliant pass has to fall to him rather than maybe a Lukaku who might finishes that chance. So I'm going to go with the 6.
Fair enough. And then Pice, you can just, after Timo, you can just move on to cover as well. I'm going to let you do both in one go.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of 6.5 for Werner because I was going to give Cover a 6. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think Werner was a bit more involved than Kovacic, although I will say just one thing on Kovacic. Do you guys notice he's like, I think he's the number one player for us that always tries to find Lukaku. And I think I've just noticed that over the last few weeks. When he came on trying to find Lukaku the whole time, they seem to have a really good connection.
Maybe it's their love for Inter that makes them connect.
Do you remember a couple, like, before Lukaku got hurt, and I know Laurenz had a stat sheet. I'm pretty sure it was Kovacic who had the most passes to him and from him. I'm pretty sure if he had, I think it was like by a distant mile.
Well.
And he's always the same. So if you want Lukaku to score goals, I think with Kovacic's progressing passing this season, I think you have to start Kovacic when Lukaku starts, in my opinion.
You could certainly make that point now, for sure. But you would have gone 6 for cover, did you say?
Yeah, I think just on that as well, good point by RJ. The ball was slightly to the side of Lukaku, so yeah. I think I did notice that. I was thinking, I can't let out a groan when that happened, because I was like, that could have been, a good opportunity. But I mean, yeah, he was just so progressive, like. Yeah, I think he made a positive impact, but 6, I think.
Fair dues. I'll leave it for now at 6.5, and we'll see where we end up democratically. Clutch, Kovacic.
I'd probably agree with the 6. That pass wasn't very good, especially since I think the one thing he's worked on this year was his passing. I think he's a lot better passer this year than he has been in years previous. I do agree that Lukaku probably works best with Kovacic. I don't think he was completely on it when he came in. I do think he made a couple good runs, but I think that pass was not the best, so I'd probably go along with the 6.
Fair dues. And you, Lewis. Obviously, again, we do the subs with the star rating, so it's not quite the same, but still the 25-ish minutes that he got, what would you make of those?
Very good on the ball. Spurs were a bit more defensive in the second half as well, so there weren't really a lot of passes he could have made successfully, but I thought the effort was there, so yeah, 6 I think is fair.
I'd probably go along with it. To be honest, I wouldn't even let him off a little bit for the pass. Yeah, I had the same, groan or whatever as Pice, with that pass to Lukaku, but I will let him off a little bit because he did have to stretch to get it in the first place, and it was kind of off balance, and it was then a left foot pass, so I get it, but obviously it was unfortunate, and especially on the back of such a brilliant performance. It was almost like the opposite of what we did with Saul and Saul, where it's like, we don't expect much from them, so we're easily impressed. But Kovacic just made us expect so much from him, especially for the last game, that it's almost like makes us more disappointed with that pass than we probably should be, because it's fair enough. Like I said, off balance, had to stretch, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think the 6 overall is probably fair. Let's get to Pulisic. Price, I think, RJ, I think, was between a 5.5 and a 6. Yeah. Now, because we gave Kovacic a 6, I think Pulisic should probably be a 5.5, to be honest. But I do think we could have given Kova a 6.5 as well. But the problem is with Pulisic, I don't know how harsh I want him to be, because when he did get spun and did get beat towards the end of the game by that Spurs youngster, I mean, he was quite literally playing an actual right back. Pulisic is not a right back. So I know he got spun and I know he got beat, and you know he shouldn't. But how much of a go am I going to have at a guy that's arguably our second best finisher, and all of a sudden he's playing right back? So like, how much of a go am I going to have him?
How about some fucking right back backup motherfuckers from the
exactly, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So maybe for that reason, I'll give him the 6 anyway. Even though maybe if we're being totally fair between him and Kova, it should probably be a little bit lower. I mean, Pice, you just jumped in there. Would you agree with that, or would you like to go? Do you think it needs to be a tad lower than Kova?
I don't know. I mean, he had one really bad cross, which went
that was
on the
bad
right hand
cross.
side, which went to the back post to nobody. But then he also had one where I think if Lukaku made the run across the front of the box,
why would you not making that run? Stupid.
Yeah. I think he probably gets a goal if that happens. So I mean, I don't know. How does that balance out?
I'd say 6. You know,
Yeah.
I'll help you out, Pice.
Yeah, it's hard when there's like different things happening and what ifs, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I leave Pulisic to clutch last, so I'll go with you next, Lewis. Pulisic.
Did get done a few times. Good on the ball progressively, but I don't really remember any big moments from him.
The cutback we just spoke about, where there should have been Lukaku but wasn't, to the near post.
Oh yeah,
no,
I remember that.
That was Ruben. Sorry,
I'll go 5.5.
Fair enough. Now that I remember this is Ruben's cutback, I will go along with the 5.5 actually. But clutch, all the power to you to push it back up to a 6 if you want to.
I don't know, man. I mean, I keep saying I don't really want to rate him over here because I don't know how many times I've said that he can't cross and he doesn't have the energy to play in this position, nor can he defend. So, I mean, 5.5 for the position. I mean, to be fair to him, it's not fair that he goes out there and he does pretty well after scoring a goal and then he comes in and plays right wing back. But what else is Tuchel meant to do at this point? I think it's unfair to him, but I think if you're looking at it from a perspective of purely performance-based, I think it's a 5.5.
Fair enough. I do find it interesting that you, who is obviously a big fan of him, did you think he doesn't have the energy? Because I back his energy. I think he has abundance of energy, and I think he's shown over the last few weeks. But fair play. Ruben, yeah, again, because I now remember that it was his cutback, should have had an assist, arguably, or at least should have assisted a good chance. Who knows whether the goalie saves a potential effort from Lukaku if he does get there. And I will say, yeah, someone will say, well, why not Timo? Because Timo played on the left of the front too, and Lukaku played on the right. So because the cross came from the right, Lukaku should be the guy at the front post. But anyway, so for that reason, I'll back to 6. To be honest, maybe I'll back a 6.5 because, I have to go with my agendas. So, I'll back a 6.5. Clutch, 6.5 too high for you? Would you prefer the 6, or how do you see Ruben's performance? Obviously coming back from, COVID and an injury.
He did have that one pass where he passed it absolutely to nobody.
Yeah, that was bad. That's true.
But to see the smile on your face, Laurenz, let's go with the 6.5. He should have probably had an assist, but let's go with the smile.
There you go. I mean, it's a weird one for me, and this is I mean this when I say this. This is not just because it was Ruben's pass out of play. Personally, I'm not that angry at players when that happens because you clearly just tried to play a switch to play. Didn't get quite under the ball, and then it just looks really bad because it goes out to nowhere. But if you hit those switch passes just and a tad wrong, that just happens. Like I've seen the very best of players play a shit pass every now and again like that. So for me, it's like, okay, sure, if we're losing 2-0 and it's the last, or losing 1-0 and it's injury time, then don't do that, of course. But at 2-0 up, just for me, not the biggest deal. Not just for Lukaku, not just for Ruben, I guess for anyone that does that. But fair dues. Who should I go with next, Lewis? Why not you? Would you make of Ruben when he came on?
When what?
Ruben when he came on. What'd you make of him?
There was some decent drives with the ball. A few times where I did want him to look up a little bit earlier, but I think he's getting better at it. 6. I wouldn't say 6.5. I'd say 6. Especially if we're giving Kovacic a 6.
That is true. But Kovacic shouldn't nearly have had an assist, and Ruben should have. Cheers to Rom. Now, I'm being a bit too harsh on Rom.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. There was that good chance to him. Maybe we can do a 6.5, but I'd still say 6.
See, I'm changing everyone's mind. Pies. What do you reckon, Ruben? 6.5?
You may have convinced me to go up a little bit, but I still have the same problem with Ruben. He doesn't release the ball quick enough, and it's what Kovacic was doing a couple of years ago. Hold on to the ball too much. I think if Tuchel can get him to release the ball quicker, he can become a 10 times better player, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I was going to go with 5.5, but then Cover has a 6. And I mean, was Cover really more involved? I mean, no, I'm going to back my point. I'll go 5.5 because Cover has the progressive pass in his game that I don't think Ruben has yet, or at least we don't see it. It's not been coached into him, I don't think, yet.
But did we see it from Cover today, though? Like, I agree that Cover has it, but did we see it today?
Yeah, because he kept trying to get the ball to Lukaku, and he was making those forward runs. I don't think Ruben... I think Ruben was more stagnant in midfield. Maybe he was asked to defend more, I don't know.
I don't want to have a repeat of where we disagreed on, not just you, but obviously with Conte as well, for Watford. And again, there's no disagreement that Cover certainly is a more progressive pass than Ruben. I'm never going to debate that. Well, maybe one day if Ruben improves at it. But I did want to Pulisic out wide, I think before Pulisic scuffed the cross so badly, and then one to Timo, but fair dues. Let's have a 6 overall then in the end. And Harvey Vale, I presume we all agree, should be.
You know what I mean, though, Laurenz? Like, he holds, he does hold on to the ball.
I disagree on the basis of the 20 minutes they both played today.
Maybe I'll put them both as 5.5 then. I don't know. It's a hard one. I just think... I just... Like, I know Ruben's... I don't want to use the word potential because he's 25, but still he does have potential that can be unlocked because he's such a... Like, he's got so much ability. It's just like... I think every fan can notice it as well. Like, just... You see how quickly the players were passing the ball today, and I don't know whether he got told to be more defensive, but... I don't know. I just thought he held on to the ball like quite a lot. Maybe he was just trying to keep possession with the team. I don't know. I'm not too cool. I don't know what he told him when he came on, but
we will never know. But hey, in the end, we sit with the 6, and I'm not here crying about it, am I? But yeah, I think, like I said, we all probably agree on the NA for Harvey Vale. Just good to see him, and hope he starts and plays well against Chesterfield, I would say. And even on Thomas Tuchel, there's not much to say other than giving him a 10. If you beat Spurs, that's always great. If their manager is Tottenham, if their manager is Conte, even better. The only thing, especially with how Lukaku played in the end, not sure if Lukaku had to start, but hey, I'm not going to be critical of Tuchel for that. So I backed to 10, especially with how limited resources we had. And for once we switched, the only question I raised at the very beginning of this stream, if we could just play a back 4 when we needed to all along, I don't understand why we haven't done it before. Like, why was Tottenham in this Carabao Cup semi-final when we have basically no centre-backs the only time we would have used this? Because, and I'm not even saying start it in so many more games, but I feel like there would have been games where if we had this option, and judging from today, we do, especially sometimes there was times when we had better players available and we're struggling to chuck another creator on, switch the back attacker on, switch the back 4. So that is the criticism of today. If anything, that might lower my rating by 0.5 in previous games, but obviously that's nothing to do with today. If anything, it's a praise for today because he's done it. So I'm very pleased on it in every sense of the word, really. Clutch, would you go along with that, or would you go slightly lower than the 10?
No, I think we're gonna go with the 10. I mean, I think we probably could have put out a little bit of a stronger lineup, but I like to see the back 4, so I cannot I can't say anything against it because I've been wanting a back four for a while now. I think it opens up our attack. I think you see that. Unfortunately, we didn't get more goals today to kind of end this tie and make sure that we can rest people. Because I do think this weekend's a free weekend for us. I think if you even play the academy, they're going to beat them. So I think for the circumstances, Tuchel gets a 10. Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll go with you next, Lewis, and then we'll finish it off with Pice. Is a 10 fair for you for Tuchel? Everything considered, obviously.
Damn right. Give him an 11 if you want to. I don't care. I was so shook going into this game. I was worried about Conte's Spurs. I was worried about their mentality. I was worried about the side we put up. We played a back four, left back Marcos Alonso, Malang Sarr, Saul Niguez, 3 of the players I trust the least going into a game.
They were all good. Crazy.
They all balled out. Sal we're talking about as man of the match. Yeah, Tuchel's that guy, man. I don't care. Do whatever you want now. Put Aspi up front if you want to in a game. I'll believe you. I'll believe in whatever you do. I don't care anymore.
There you go. And apparently his first choice is Emerson as well, which I still don't understand because last season he played Alonso over Emerson. And that tells me if we do get Emerson, he would still play Alonso more often than not.
That's such cut, by the way. That's such cut. That's such cut. That's the board leaking to the media that apparently Tuchel prefers Emerson. That's bullshit. Emerson can't follow tactical instructions. Like, he played him left centre back over left wing back. Like, I don't know, man. I like Emerson, but I don't think he's the manager's favourite over a new signing. I think that's ridiculous. I mean,
I do. The problem is obviously that it's January, right? And a new signing that hasn't played our system will take a few weeks to get used to things, right? Especially coming in January, no matter how fit he is at the time.
I don't think it would be a problem, to be honest, because he's played in the Premier League, and he's, to be honest, if it's Digne we're talking about,
overrated fact, personally, but doesn't matter.
No, I think if it's Digne we're talking about, if you watch his game, he plays more like a wing back than a full back anyway, so I don't think it'll be a problem.
And even about him, he says, Lukaku needs to adapt to a new league. Lukaku played here for 10 years, essentially.
I get with kind of the system and the way we play, but I didn't agree with Tuchel's comment about the league. It's clearly not true. I mean, he scored over 100 goals.
No, I agree, but he still looks like he needs to get used to it, does he not? Most of the games that he plays for.
I think it's more the team, to be honest. I think he looks comfortable in terms of how he dominates players. I think it's just... he understands the positions.
To shoot is what he doesn't do quick enough, I thought. But fair. No criticism much. But I presume you agree on whatever we go 10 or 11, whatever it is. I presume you agree on Tuchel on that.
Yeah, I mean, as well as 16 chances created today. I mean, it was just a dominating display. 63% possession, I think we had.
Just a shame we didn't score more, really, isn't it?
Yeah, when you look at that,
Tottenham were horrendous.
Yeah, they were so bad. One of the most common own goals I've ever seen, by the way. Sorry, go on.
It's another case of like Tuchel coaching more than the actual result, and it's just so annoying. I just wonder when we'll get that game where we'll just win like 5 or 6-0 and be like, well, this is what we could have done every week if the players just scored.
Last time that happened against Norwich. So.
Yeah, like Norwich was the one, right, where we scored pretty much every shot. And it was like, well, we do this actually most weeks. It's, people saying, it's Norwich. Well, no, we create these chances all the time. It's just, we're not Man City. Their players don't score all the bloody time, so it's annoying.
Exactly. The only reason why I'll even let the board off a little bit about the whole left wing back situation, because like Pice touched on earlier, there's the likelihood of us signing a left wing back and a right wing back, left back, right back, whatever you want to call it. Signing both in January, very, very slim.
But there's a left back right there, and Newcastle have just put in a bid for him.
Yeah, but he's not going. Fabrizio said he doesn't want to go.
Fabrizio Romano said he rejected it because he wants to go to a different Premier League club. I wonder who that is.
Well, we got to put the bid in, innit? Like, we ain't even started official talks if Fabrizio's talking the truth.
That is true. I mean, if, Digne may want to join, like, I think he mentioned West Ham and Chelsea, but he may want to join one of those two. But also,
my gosh!
But also remember,
prefer West Ham to Newcastle, because Newcastle, whether they sign Trippier and Digne or not, their chances.
No, but also remember, players don't stick around forever. It's the same with Kunde. I will warn you guys that although he may want to join Chelsea, he's not going to reject us. He's not going to accept us forever. There's other clubs.
Yeah, we have to hurry up.
Exactly. Same with
What
Digne.
I
We've
was
got to
trying to
hurry
say,
up.
though, Pice, is
Digne should have been in before the
I
Liverpool game,
understand that
personally.
if the club need a left and a right side to play in that position that they don't want to sign to, and then from the people we have available to call
Why?
back, Emerson
Why
is
though?
no. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying, like you said, the likelihood of them doing that is just slim. They should be doing it anyway, but
Yeah,
we know
it's
them, so we
mandatory.
know
For
it's
fuck's sake,
unlikely.
like Aspie is more of a. I mean, it depends what happens with Aspie, I guess, because if we don't sign a like, say James is obviously going to be the first choice, then are you going to really have? Say we play this system next season, are you really going to have Aspie as backup again? Like, how many more years do you want to get out of him? Like, I don't know.
No, but that's what I'm saying, though. So recalling Emerson and signing a right wing back instead makes way more sense than signing a left wing back and recalling Dujon Sterling in terms of level.
It does, but at the same time, I don't understand why we're trying to recall Emerson. Like, you've got a chance you've got a chance now, right, to get a player off your books that you've been trying to get rid of for donkey's years. They're going to buy him for £12 million. So why are you even trying to push it? Like, it's free money. They're going to buy him. Like, fucking get someone on loan or like sort it out. Like, it's so annoying. I fucking hate this board. They'll probably wait another 2 weeks before they start making moves. It pisses me off, honestly.
It is a bit long, especially when Leon have told us no twice. Like, at some point, you have to learn.
Move on. Why are we trying to fucking change the contract situation and the contract terms in the loan? Like, just fucking hell. Like, you decided he wasn't good enough in the first place. Why you bloody loaned him? Like, stupid.
But I do agree, though, that Emerson is much better than Alonso. So.
No, he is, but well, we all think he is, but Tuchel never played him over Alonso, so who knows? Like, you know what I mean? So this whole bullshit about Nizar coming out saying Tuchel prefers him, like, that's such. He's been told by someone higher up. That's such cap. I don't believe that. Because circumstances tell us different, you know? We've seen proof that he doesn't, so.
I mean, you never know. Maybe we all, him included, wanted to get rid of Alonso more, but we didn't find anyone that accepted Alonso's wages, which are higher than Emerson's wages. Maybe that's the reason Emerson's alone and not Alonso. Who knows? I guess. Who knows? The last thing I wanted to quickly say is, you know how Ralph Rangnick is apparently Tuchel's father and dad, and you know Klopp's as well, obviously. Not only is Tuchel better at everything. Even the 4-2-2, which apparently Ralph Rangnick is the biggest genius at. Do you know what I mean? That's literally the worst managerial bounce I've ever seen anywhere. Imagine that. There's a reason
look
why
at the like Laurenz. Look at the
Lokomotiv Moscow.
Laurenz, look at the players Tuchel has as well, bro. Like, this is people ain't deep in this. Like, I know our squad's good, and I know our team was good today, and I know they cost a lot of money. But look at the players out. Look at the players Man U have in that lineup the other day. Like, just back this guy, man. Like, please, you know, that will just leave it there. Just back him, because the stuff he does with like the circumstances right now is honestly insane. Like, I messaged you saying this is a horrible lineup. Like, this is disgusting. We've got Alonso, we've got Aspie as potential fullback, we've got Sarr in a back four, we've got Saul, who's not been good for us. Like, he's making this team and players, individuals perform, and it's like, people don't understand. That comes down to training ground as well. And it's like his personal relationships with the players are important. Like, with Kepa as well. Look how much better Kepa has been under Tuchel. That's down to personal relationship as well as it is training, by the way. Because people don't understand this. Like, it's confidence. You don't understand. He's probably like had his arm around Malang Sarr yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, it's the little things we don't see that I can guarantee you happens for these guys to perform.
Exactly. No, I could not agree more. Fantasy PGA Tour, I would actually like to touch on that question. We've been going for literally 2 hours already. So if you remember, please remind me in the next stream when we do the preview for probably just a field game, you know, even though it's a bit dead. But anyway, remind me in that and we will discuss that. But ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to round it out here. It's nearly 1 a.m. in the morning for me, but we've had a wonderful night because we beat Spurs and everything's bloody lovely jubbly. Big shout out to RJ who was here earlier, obviously. Check him out on Twitter. Big shout out to Lewis for popping up surprisingly. Check out his channel, obviously, and subscribe if you haven't already, although you're a bit weird if you haven't. Check out Pice and Clutch on Twitter, obviously. Check out Pice's website as well. And if you haven't already, I haven't told you in a while, but we still have over 200 people watching, which I appreciate. So if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. We're getting really close to 13k subs, but still on the road to 15,000 subscribers. So get subscribed, hit that big red subscribe button for me. Smash the like button as well if you haven't already. It doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time, but we're going to round it out here. Thank you guys for watching. up to Chelsea, up to numbers, and I'll see you next time.